let's see here. Yeah, this is much more useful to have the picture, right? So you can see the steps here, right? There is the pipeline you're going to go through, but you're going to cull, do shadows from light's point of view, opaque, skybox, transparents. Then we could see that, you're pretty much just paying double the cost for, an eye that's only a little bit different. So, the first strategy here would be to just make sure you don't do things twice that don't actually have to be done twice, right? That you can share between them. And so you can pull this out into just a single pass where we cull, we do shadows. But culling happened from the view frustum. If you remember, each eye is actually going to have a slightly different view frustum. So instead, what you could do is you could just make one big view frustum that kind of encompasses both of them, and then that's going to be a lot more efficient to just go based on that. So that's kind of what the first version of this they did was. So better multi-pass, make sure not to duplicate things that don't need to be done. But of course, single pass is what we're going for here. And, what they did is being able to do left and right eyes both at the same time. So that was kind of the stuff we talked about last time with the single pass. And when you're doing that, ideally you can just check the little drop down and say, hey, yeah, Unity, do single pass. And if everything looks just same as it was before, then you probably want to leave it at that. If things are rendering badly, of course, and go back to the multipass we saw before. And here's some metrics you can see between the two. So yeah, I guess one good takeaway from this is to keep in mind that rendering is not just something that happens on the graphics card exactly. I mean, yeah, the whole pipeline is executed there, but it's a coordinated effort between the CPU and the GPU. So whenever you're drawing things, right, you're going to make those draw calls that starts its life on the CPU, and then it goes off to the driver, and the driver does different complicated things to make sure it can get it ready for the GPU. So there's kind of a lot of overhead to render things that actually comes on the CPU. So if you don't have to do all this stuff on the CPU and you're not thrashing memory, going through your list twice, right? We can see the CPU jumps quite a bit further down. And the GPU savings are actually not that substantial, just because video cards at this point are pretty well optimized for doing a lot of these tasks. So it's a little bit surprising that it's only that much, but you do see some savings. And then taking this a little bit further, you can actually do this instancing thing, which you don't have to worry about. It's a drop down, and that reduces the CPU load a little bit further. But that said, let's go back to the whole idea of design, really, and when it comes to VR. There's a couple of different vectors we can look at here, and I don't mean geometric vectors. I mean, we could kind of go along the design of the UI, right? Just thinking about how we communicate to the player, like what's a really good way to make things very clear and direct, and make sure that the player can be immersed into whatever it is that they're actually trying to do. And so there's a design aspect of that, and then kind of intertwined with that is the idea of designing for comfort, right? If someone's sick, then obviously that's going to interfere with their ability to focus on your experience as well. So looking at these different things, let's kind of go through the list here, some recommendations. And after we go through this list, we're going to go through this game called Half-Life Alyx and look at a few things and see how they handle this stuff, because it's pretty much the poster child of like just doing everything right for the most part. So first things first, when you're allowing your player to move around in a scene, ideally they'd be able to move themselves. And in a perfectly ideal world, you'd have a big warehouse like in The Void that we saw that demo for. What do they show in The Void? They showed like Ghostbusters or whatever. But they're walking around a big warehouse and nothing's moving them, right? They're moving themselves. So there's this one-to-one correspondence between what they see and how they're actually commanding their body to move. But it's not really realistic to have a big warehouse to do that sort of thing and the budget to pull it off. So, for practical purposes, you have to find a way to be able to move yourself around the scene. We saw teleport as well, but you could imagine just using like a joystick or whatever to move the player forward and to the side. And that's where you start to have a disconnect between how you're moving your body and the visual feedback you get on the screen, right? And different people have varying tolerances to that sort of thing. But if you can help it. You really don't want to force a user to move that way. And I think this sums it up pretty well. When there's a conflict between the user's motion and the visually perceived motion, it results in a visual vestibular sensory mismatch, right? So besides nausea, right, there's eye strain is not good, and just general disorientation. So it's generally good to either just go with the teleport kind of mechanic, that you refine, or give the player an option to choose different things, because some players won't mind moving themselves around and having that kind of control, but most people probably will. Another way to minimize that is to, when you do have to move the player, is to give them a foreground element so that doesn't move, right? So if you're like inside of a car, you can see the dashboard and the frame of the car kind of going around you, and that kind of anchors you to accept, I think, the things that are moving that you see through the windshield. So that's better. It still may not be comfortable for a lot of people. And the one that probably is the biggest offender is when it comes to rotation. If you rotate the player's head, that even less people tolerate that well. You can probably translate someone around, and it's not too bad, but rotating them is definitely worse. And at this point, though, there's a little bit of a trade-off to be made, and that's because usually we're tethered, and when you're going around inside of a virtual world and you're teleporting, you want to look behind yourself, look to the side, and you end up twisting, and I end up turning myself into a cord mummy because I just get tangled and wrapped around in that thing. So that can be pretty inconvenient. So what you want to do is give the player a way to kind of rotate, but in a more teleport kind of fashion, where they could just tap the stick and it just kind of snaps them in incremental degrees. And we'll see that in Half-Life Alyx. Once I got used to that in that game, it was kind of like I was very disappointed when I didn't have that feature in other games or experiences. Another issue, and this one's, I think, a pretty big immersion breaker, and that's the fact that you have objects that are around you, spatially located, and there's nothing necessarily stopping you from sticking your head through an object, right? You can do that, and what do you normally get? You got near plane clipping, and then you can see on the inside of stuff, and that's very immersion breaking. And we'll see another good example in Half-Life Alyx how they deal with this. It's pretty interesting and works amazingly well. Yeah, maintain a high frame rate, and then world space UI. Generally, when you're thinking of VR or AR, any of the Rs, really the new thing, the new abilities that really brings to the forefront is largely spatially based, right? So when you're really situated in a space and you could take advantage of all the degrees of freedom that normal 3D space has, like in the real world, it feels more natural and easier to actually use something like a diegetic UI, where your UI is part of the world, right? You don't want to just paste a PDF like flat on the screen in front of someone. That's actually a horrible experience, but it also tends to be the thing that new developers automatically do. And why shouldn't they, right? We have this long history in 2D, and so what do people think? They think, oh, well, things work great in one medium, so naturally I can just take that thing and bring it into a new medium. And it turns out the strengths and weaknesses of both aren't really not the same, and you end up having not only not a good experience, but a rather poor one that would sour someone on the good things that VR brings to the table. So let's see. All that said, you guys have any questions about this, or what we got here? Got 30 minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to switch computers over to another machine where I am streaming on YouTube. And one of the main reasons I'm doing that is because the aspect ratio of the screen can be really poor if I just try to stream it from the screen. It'll look like I'm zoomed into everything and you won't see very well. So if I go into the stream, I have a special plugin that kind of remaps it to see it a little bit better. So I want you guys to go into the chat. It's the stream link, that second link in there. I'll repaste it in here. It's not showing there. All right. So let me make sure that's still running. Looks like it's okay. Let me make sure that's still all right. Looks like it's okay. I'm gonna move over there and we'll do a quick audio check and then get this thing going. I'm gonna move over there and we'll do a quick audio check and then get this thing going. Stop this. Stop this. All right, can you hear me? Hello, hello?
Yes.
Okay, okay, cool.
Yes.
Now, if you guys could talk, I want to see if you can hear yourself in the stream. I think I fixed the problem.
Talking. No, we can't. Talking.
All right, perfect, awesome. Okay.
No, we can't.
Okay. All right, so here we are. Half-Life Alex, right? We have some non-diegetic UI, which is, it makes sense in certain areas, right? We're not in the game, we're just kind of setting up. So when it comes to configuration, I think that's a pretty good choice. Let me get my hands up and running here. Come here, hands. Yep, all right, there we go. And let's start fresh. No, not add on maps. There we go. All right. So one of the things they do really well is they give you some different options for how you want to move. So blink is teleport. This shift is actually probably is good for when people are watching you stream, and it's a little less comfortable than straight teleport. It actually interpolates your movement. It's kind of like a half teleport. We'll look at the different options here. And there's continuous, which is, hey, just move yourself with the sticks, and if you're comfortable for that. And you can also have reorient the way the sticks move to be based on your hand direction or your head direction. And in this case, I'll just start with this, and we'll kind of take a look at them. Yeah. So you can see that the headset I'm using right now is, at least I think you can see this. It's the Valve Index. You can see I have these knuckles controllers, and they're going to go away and be replaced by hands in a second here. But these things are attached to my hands, and they have sensors to know what my fingers are doing. All right. Spoiler alert. Okay. I looked all around to see if I could find what the development budget was for this game, but I couldn't. And if I had to guess, I would say it was probably approaching, you know, like $100 million, depending on how you measure that. But they definitely took their sweet time with it. And you can see the large scale of things right here. And one of the things that it usually has a big impact when you have presence like this, right? You don't really get the same sense of being here that I'm in it right now, but we have this big difference between foreground and background elements, right? You can see that this thing in the background just like is huge and it feels huge, whereas if you saw it on your 2D screen, you definitely wouldn't get that. So okay, here's my controller, and shoot, I wanted to show that tutorial here. So you can actually see, okay, so this is really nice, right? While it's trying to teach me, it has this transparent view of what the actual controller is in the real world, rather than the hand representation. And then I have this help toggle that just kind of follows it around. So when it comes to things that are just kind of getting you in there and are not part of being fully immersed, like this kind of stuff is great. You'd be like, okay, snap to turn left or right. So I can turn myself left or right, but if I don't want to get caught up in my cable, right, I can do this, and that's, I kind of didn't like doing it at first, but I got used to it pretty quick, and then now it annoys me not to have it. But let's see what we got here. So everything's extremely interactable. All right, so oops, I crushed that a little hard. All right. So these controllers actually have a squeeze, right? There's no button. I can just squeeze my hand, crush that can. Could be useful for different things. Nice physics, everything kind of works really nicely there. And let's move along here. So now you can see that I'm moving via a teleport, right? And it looks like it's a straight line because Beziers would when they're really close like that, but as I extend out here, you can see I can't just walk necessarily as far as I want. It's gonna kind of clamp at some point, and it shows me this nice foot diagram to show me where I'm gonna be after the teleport. And one of the other things you can do is I can actually rotate the stick, and I can change the way that I'm facing after the teleport. And this is actually pretty fancy that it actually offsets those feet to be on each of the steps. That's pretty nice. So I could do this, I'll let go, and I'm facing the wall. So that's the regular teleport. Let's bring open another type here. We'll go into shift. That's what they call it. So this is almost like teleport, right? I'll pick over here, but now there's this quick dashing interpolation. And some people like this a lot more, and it's definitely more comfortable than just trying to move yourself. I think if people are watching you in VR, this is easier for them to follow what's going on. They can, clearly see that there's this bridge between where you started and where you finished. And then finally, let's bring open the vomit option here. I go movement continuous. So this is only vomit for me, you guys. I'm sure this probably looks extra nice for you, but this is it's all right if I'm looking straight across right here, 'cause things aren't moving fast. But if I look at the ground and do this, it's not fantastic feeling. So let's bring this back open. I'll leave it at dash. I'm plenty okay with that. Dash. Here we have option whether you want to actually physically climb a ladder with your hands or automatically. This is something that can actually lift you off the ground. You can leave that on here. Snap turn. So you can actually configure this angle right here for how far I turn, right? I could put it to something small, and that might be better for you guys watching it, to see the difference between where I started and ended. But let's cut it back at this. And take a look at these sets. I got markers here. So it's pretty nice. Erase. All right, let's hit this button here.
Alex, how's it looking up there?
It's good, Dad. Metrocop movement is normal. Same for the Combine patrols.
How's it going in the stockyard?
Look at that. That's attention to detail right there.
Combine mini reactor from a shipment of 4,000. They're never going to miss it. Here, see for yourself.
And not only that, someone's hacked into the Combine Construction Network.
Don't get greedy, guys. We're not made of time here.
1 minute and I'm out, guaranteed.
Oh, also, I spotted the Combine moving supplies into the quarantine zone. That place has been deserted for years.
That is all.
Let's see, this actually prevents my hand from moving until I move it too
Well, we'll look
far.
into it when we get back.
What is this?
Meet back at the safe house, baby. We'll be there soon.
It looks like...
What is it, Russell?
Would you?
Let's
Terrific.
get this party started. So, alright. Press and hold to toggle the game menu. Got it. Okay. Also, what's kind of nice with this teleport, I think, is, you know, it might not be really noticeable at first, but you'll notice it when it's missing. When I teleport, you'll hear the sound of what the footstep would make on that. So that's there. Let's see. I mean, you can notice how it'll sound different depending on what I'm walking on. And here we have a game with the doorknob. That's good because I can open it. Having a door without a doorknob is a good way of indicating you can't. You guys gotta try this. Alright, let's this guy here. Can bring that around here. Got a pet. Can feed.
We need to make
There
this
you
game
go.
a non-VR for the rest of us. We need to make this game
What's that?
non-VR. They need to make this in a non-VR version.
They have,
They need to
but
make
that's.
this in a
I'm
non-VR
glad you brought that
version.
up. I mean, Valve didn't make this in a non-VR version. Somebody hacked it so that they could play it outside of VR. And the thing is that all this game would probably just not be very good outside of VR. When you see more of it, you know, you can just, and you experience it. It's very much tailored to actually being there and feeling it. Like there's a lot of things related to gunplay, right? Let me see if I can get to a gun quickish. Or you know what? I don't have to go this way. It might be close to a gun anyway. Let me just load up a different level. Can I do this? Not that. Yeah, here I'll go back to the main menu. Yeah, so the gunplay is really good. You know, in a normal first-person shooter, you're moving the mouse and the keyboard, and it's kind of just like you're aiming a mouse pointer. But the gunplay in here is very much not that different from shooting a real gun. I'm equally poor at both. Let's see here. Start new game. Quarantine zone, super weapon. I'm not sure which one to pick. Let's go with that. Movement type, shift, go. One of the things I really want to show you is kind of, you know, kind of different ways to interact with objects in the world, right? It makes sense to push a button on a PC and have things happen. It also makes sense to reach down and grab stuff like you would in real life. But VR actually does afford more than that, right? You can actually do a lot of things that are unreal or hyper real and take advantage of being able to give your users superpowers. So anyway, so I got a gun now. Let me show you. I got a clip, and I took this clip out. And one of the things you can do is I can reach out. I can hold this button. You can see I kind of have a tether to it, and I can just yank it up and grab it. You know, and this could be over there. and I'll just grab, be like, hey, that comes to me, cool. Let's put that back in the gun. Let's check the chamber. There's me wasting a bullet, but you know, the way the gun works is very much like a real gun works. You know, I don't push anything to reload. I actually reload it. And when it comes to diegetic UI, here it is. It's on my hand, right? This, and it's on the gun, right? I can see how much ammo is inside of that gun, or I can see this number counter here. I can actually see how much health I have. And when it comes to superpowers, you know, if I want to carry things for later, there's different ways to do it, but I can actually, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's do this. I'm gonna come to my hand, grab this. I can actually have sort of an inventory slot. You know what, I can't do it with ammo, that's right. I'll show this when I get to something else. But basically, I have these little slots in my wrist where I can just put things in to store them for later.
Alex! Alex, the signal's back. Can you hear me? Are you okay?
Russell, I'm good. How's Dad?
They've got him on the train. He's on the move. You've got to find Fairview Junction before they get there.
I'm working on it.
So anything happened when you cut out?
You're not gonna believe this, but I ran into a Vortigaunt.
A Vortigaunt? What was he doing down there?
Here, something that is useful later in the game. I can actually wear this, put this on my face.
You ever read a Vortigaunt?
Can I store this for later? No, I can't store this one. But with this ammunition, it's kind of a special thing. You can store it in your backpack. So I just drop this over my shoulder, and then if I want to grab it, I grab over my shoulder, put that in there. And sometimes I fail at that. Why is that not going over my shoulder? Oh, maybe it's... Backpack only stores full magazines, so yeah, it's trying to tell me. I'm just wasting ammo here. Can I pick this guy up? Nope. You know what, let me close this so I can show something else, or not. These guys need to be shot in their juicy spot. Right. Trying to demo here, creature. Yeah, there we go. Oh. All right. So there's some health right here. This is something I can showcase putting this in here. So I can
Hey, Russell.
drop that in
I just
there.
found a loose syringe of God knows what. Is this medicine?
Doesn't have a skull and
Some
crossbones
power
on it.
thing.
I don't see one.
Probably medicine then.
Alright, well, so I can take this out now that I want to use it. Drop that in there. Let's get rid of that guy. Let's move on.
Oh, that Vortigaunt I met? He did give me a head crab to eat.
Oh, right. What did it taste like? Tell me how you...
Russell! I didn't eat it.
Right. Of course you didn't. No, that's the right decision.
Alright, let's see, what else do I really want to show here? Asami does have a shotgun.
That zombie has a
So,
shotgun.
I can take this out. Now I've got the health, I can check myself with that. Get some more health. Guy doesn't know when to quit. Let's see what we got down here. So this is me jumping down. And there you go, that lets me know that if I try to jump down there, I will die.
Never survive a jump from this height.
No, absolutely not. Why? Were you considering it?
Let's see. Do I have other guns? No, I don't have other guns here. So yeah, I guess this is probably a good thing to show. You know, changing items on your hand. There's kind of this little touchpad on the controller right now, where if I put my thumb on it, it brings up this menu, which just kind of sits there. And it allows me, it's almost like a pie menu, right? I can just go up or down, select what I want here, be like, hey, here's my hand, there's the gun, and I can go down here and I get this little tool thing, or I can just use my hand. So here's a puzzle of sorts. It's me dropping a guy with a shotgun, and he's a little bit too low, so I want to get him just far enough.
Let's Get
I
this
can go grab
shotgun
this.
and get out of here.
Come here, give me that shotgun. There we go. All right. I mean, yeah, this is some special kind of shotgun, I guess. All right. Some shotgun ammunition. Put that behind my back. I'm gonna grab the shotgun. I can load this. Just put this down like that. Do I have any more ammo? There we go. See, it tells me I don't have to do that. All right. So I use it. Click that to go up. Pull the slide back, and now there we go. And we got a ragdoll right here, right? And I have some postal workers.
We did it.
I love
All right. Oh, you know, here's the other big thing that I really wanted to show. Right. So I'm in my living room right now, and my living room doesn't actually have a brick wall right here. Right. There's nothing stopping me from sticking my head through this wall. And when you're moving around a lot, especially in tense moments where you're trying to have these gunfights or do different things, right? You find yourself, you know, kind of accidentally going through geometry, and that could be very distracting. So let me kind of show an example. I'll slowly move my head through here, and you can see that as I do this, like the screen kind of more or less fades out. I'm in the ether right now, but I can kind of see the way back and be like, hey, there's back to the real world, and at least I can kind of find my way back. But it's not like I'm breaking the rules of the game. It's kind of just like, oh, you know, I'm outside of the bounds of the space, and that's far less disorienting, I think, than breaking the immersion of feeling like you're in a different place. Right now, it's like, hey, I know that I'm not necessarily through the wall, but I'm not fully in the space anymore, and that type of handling, I think, works amazingly well. And most games kind of just have punted and kind of ignored this fact, or they tried not to let you get too close to walls. These particles, you know, really have a completely different character when you can see them with stereo perception. Let's see if I can get out of here real quick. There's ammunition. Nothing in the box. Reload. We already had one in there. Well, that's enough for that, I think. There's anything else? Do I have anything? I mean, the sense of scale can be really impressive if you make good use of it. I don't know if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, right? There's something that when you're in it, like, you just get this amazing sense of scale, and it's not something that looking at a photograph could ever give you. It's kind of similar in a way. Yeah, my settings. I think that's good. I'm gonna shut this down and go back to my machine. Let's see. I guess this recording will not be too fun to watch, since it's not showing that stream. So that's most of what I had planned to show you guys. I guess, you know, we don't really have too much extra time here. There is one last thing, actually. So I spent some time looking into the whole possibility space of different routes you could go when you're trying to get started doing VR stuff with Unity. And like if you're using the Valve Index or HTC Vive, you can go Steam VR. You currently can't use this one. If you're using the Oculus Rift or the Quest, you could use the built-in Oculus stuff, or you could use the interaction toolkit. They're kind of different, and this one's starting to mature a little bit, but it's it's a little bit bare bones, I think, right now as is. And VRTK used to be promising in the past, and that can work across the board. It's just it can be a little cumbersome to work with. It's like just seems overly complicated. But VRTK handles all headsets, and ideally, you wouldn't have to worry about writing code specific to any one of these. You'd just be able to use the one to rule them all, and you kind of can right now. They're going to have support for the Vive and the Index soonish, I think, but I don't think it's not quite there at this point. If you guys are starting doing thesis work in Unity in, I don't know, 3, 4, 6 months, this might all change quite a bit. So you take that with a grain of salt. However, I would recommend that if you do want to start looking in Unity's version, the quick and easy way to do that is to actually do it straight through the Unity Hub. If you come over here to the Learn tab, you'll actually see projects and tutorials, and there's a VR beginner escape room in here that's actually pretty good. So I would start there and take a look at that. Let's see, I think I actually have this open right here. So these are very large gizmos, icons, okay. And yeah, this kind of showcases different features that they have in here. And this is definitely worth downloading and checking out and seeing what they do. Yeah, that's about all I got for VR. I guess the last thing is kind of just seeing what you guys want to focus on next. I'm kind of a big part of what I'm doing for you in this class, just going wherever it is you guys want to go. So go based on those poll results and try to make something, but I think it would work better if you let me know whatever it is that you're having trouble with or you're interested in, and maybe we could focus on that. So you guys have any questions?
Have you tested out the Pimax yet?
Shoot, I wasn't sharing my screen yet, or again, right? I've never tried the Pimax, no. I don't think we have one in-house. Where did you get to use it?
There is a one of my former coworkers was in the area. He had the 5K plus. It's a 120 hertz version of it. And I liked it, but it has this, you can see obvious like distortion on the left and right of your periphery. Like I'm not sure it's something you'd get used to, but the enhanced field of view is definitely good in games that support it. But I'm trying to debate between that and the Valve Index because the Rift S field of view is just not cutting it anymore for me.
Well, the Index is pretty good. Definitely worth checking out. I'm not sure if we have one on order or not, but it's hard to know what's going on now that we're all working from home. Let's see. Oh yeah. So now that I'm sharing my screen, yeah, you can see here's the Unity Hub. Here's the Learn section, projects. There's the VR escape room right here. And then if I look at the open project, you can see here's the inside of a scene right now. It's it's a nice little demo to check out. And you can kind of reverse and see how they do certain things. There's also this prototype scene where you can kind of just see how the objects are set up to be interactable. And so we're done with this one. Let me check the poll again here. Okay, so you got general scripting, game engines. Yeah, maybe we can do a little bit of both. So there won't be any class tomorrow, but we'll pick up on Wednesday, and I'll probably pick out some little tips and tricks of code, and we'll do start a little bit of a run through game engines in general. There's kind of a lot of history and some interesting aspects, and as we progress from one generation to the next, we've gone through many generations already, and with each generation, there's kind of a prevalent or a common set of features that you kind of expect to see in game engines for that generation, and we'll kind of look at how those things evolved and how we got to where we are now, and where things are going, which is pretty interesting. So I think maybe we'll do this over a couple sessions, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. And we'll stick around if you guys have any questions. Where is my, oh.